Now let me repeat this. The charge is about the defendant's use of illegal action to get Cassie and Jane to say yes.
Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you can be mad, I can have a spat, we can have whatever, then after that you better get on your job.
Again and again, that criminal enterprise serviced the defendant's every desire through a methodical pattern of violence, coercion, and manipulation.
I was disgusted then when I did it, I'm disgusted now.
Up until today, the defendant was able to get away with these crimes because of his money, his power, his influence. That stops now.
The fate of Sean Diddy Combs will soon be in the hands of the jury. Today, our verdict watch kicks off in this high-profile trial. Plus, I was inside of the courtroom watching on Friday, and we're going to be spotlighting my biggest takeaways from all of the courtroom action. And Brian Kohberger is due in court today as attorneys will be questioning 6 potential witnesses for his upcoming trial. So what could that mean for his upcoming case? And court resumes this morning in the Preppy Party murder trial. Could testimony from the defendant's prep school friends tip the scales of justice against him? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We have got a wonderful show planned for you. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. What about the kids? Diddy's kids. You know, my friends, sometimes in criminal cases we forget about the children of the defendants. The children don't ask to be part of the criminal case. And it's traumatic seeing their parent accused and incarcerated and standing trial. I was sitting in the courtroom 5 rows behind Diddy's 6 adult children on Friday. I saw the love on their faces. I saw the worry. I saw the pain. They're very brave standing by their dad. Now, even though they're not case victims, they are victims in another sense, in the sense that their lives have been turned upside down with public scrutiny and the trauma and learning about the case details. Think about it. What must that be like for them? Not being able to hug their dad right now, not being sure their dad's ever going to come back home to them. Yes, these children are very wealthy, and growing up, their lives must have been anything but ordinary. But money can't cure pain. Seeing those kids leaning on each other and on their grandma for support tugged at my heartstrings. And this morning on this program, we're going to be examining the facts of the case, the arguments, and the jury. But I wanted to just kick off the show by recognizing how difficult this must be for those kids. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
And when you were getting into the car, what, if anything, was said when you were getting into the car?
I heard the defendant say, "Jack, give me the knife."
And did you see a knife that night?
I did not.
Did you see Jack hand the defendant the knife?
I did not.
And when you were getting back into the car, did you have a knife on you?
I did not.
Now, we're tracking a few different trials for you today. In Connecticut, we've got testimony resuming in the Preppy Party murder trial. This is for defendant Raul Valle. Court begins at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. In Idaho, we've got a witness hearing set for defendant Brian Kohberger. 6 different witnesses are set to appear today, and the court will determine whether they'll be testifying in his upcoming trial. Court starts in that case at 9 a.m. And in New York City, the case I was just talking about, deliberations are beginning this morning in Diddy's federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial. And that is, of course, our top story this morning as people all around the world are getting ready to go on a verdict watch. The 55-year-old music mogul has pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges. The jury has heard wildly different arguments from the government and from Diddy's defense team when it comes to each side's interpretation of the facts of the case.
Again and again, that criminal enterprise serviced the defendant's every desire through a methodical pattern of violence, coercion, and manipulation. The defendant counted on silence and shame to keep his crimes hidden. He thought that his fame, wealth, and power put him above the law. But over the course of this trial, his crimes have been exposed.
Attorney Mark Agnifilo delivered the closing argument for the Diddy defense team, saying that jurors heard a tale of two trials, as told by the evidence about a lifestyle of swingers and threesomes, and another one, and quote, exaggerated trial by the federal government. So this morning we're asking, what is the jury thinking as they're getting ready to head into deliberations? I've got two outstanding guests ready to talk about this with me. In the studio, I have high-profile criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines, and outside of the courthouse, I have the editor-in-chief of the Hip Hop Inquirer, somebody who's been covering this trial every single day, been in the courtroom every day watching the action, Dennis Byron. Dennis, good morning. Noah, good morning.
Good morning.
Dennis, let me begin with you, please. As you've been in the courtroom looking at the jury, what have you been able to glean in watching them in terms of what they may be thinking as they go into the courtroom this morning?
One of the things I look at is what jurors are listening to the lawyers and which jurors are taking notes. What I saw in with the closing from Ms. Slavic, I saw jurors taking notes. What I saw with Mr. Agnifilo, when he was doing his closing, they were looking at him. It feels like they were really connecting with him. When he moved, and you were in the courtroom when I was in the courtroom, when he moved to the left or right, they watched him, they listened to him. I saw some note taking. I saw a lot of jurors paying attention to what he was saying. And he made some very good points.
Yes, and you just made such an important point, Dennis. Thank you for that. The connection that a lawyer can make with a juror is the goal in every trial. Noah Pines, is it not, when you're trying to just somehow make that connection? What do you think, hearing what Dennis just shared with us?
Well, sometimes you're giving a closing and the jurors are nodding and they're taking notes. And this has happened to me, in my last trial. I'm like, I've got this jury. There's no question about it. And the evidence was significant, and they convicted my client very quickly. I thought I had them just from watching them. So sometimes, you could have them there, but when you go back to that jury room, depending on how they deliberate, and if they start and go, well, what did the judge tell us? They almost reset. So it's a little deceiving. It really is. And it's really deceiving on the heart when you're like, I got them.
You thought they were with you, right? I've been there, no. I've been there when I've had looking at me, nodding and then they go the other way.
Yeah.
Right. And
sleeping when the state is doing their closing, and then they come out with one-word verdict.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. Sleeping, never a good sign. We know that. But sometimes maybe laughing could be. Dennis, let me go back to you. On Friday, when Mark Agnifilo delivered the close, there were two moments. I know you caught this, when he made jokes. He joked about the federal government seizing all the Astroglide, keeping the streets safe from the Astroglide. And then he made a joke about the dope, because we're talking about such small amounts in the alleged distribution under the racketeering conspiracy. And he said, look, people can't grow their own Xanax. You got to get it from somewhere. And Dennis, I saw 3 jurors laughing both times. Your thoughts on what that might indicate?
That they don't take the prosecution, that part of the evidence, serious. I mean, let's be honest. This guy was I hate to say it, but he was a dope fiend. He used a lot of drugs. All the witnesses that came in and testified of his drug use said he used all kind of drugs. They used drugs. So if you're using drugs, but then when they did the raid, they didn't find kilos of cocaine or Xanax or weight of drugs. They found, when he was arrested, they found drugs for his personal usage. And I think that's going to prove that this man had a drug problem, not moving drugs, so to speak.
Right, Dennis. Yeah, I can see it. Noah, the government's characterizing a couple people as mules. We hear about that with Jane, one of Diddy's girlfriends, taking some small amounts of pills on an airplane, probably flying, maybe private, if not private, first class, to go to the high-end hotel. His assistant, Brendan Paul, the former basketball player at Syracuse, who would transport small amounts, to the different freak-offs, still against the law. But might a jury say, well, is this that big of a deal because he's not selling it and profiting?
Yeah, I'm sure this happens all the time, right? Millions of people are flying. I'm sure some boyfriend or girlfriend is like, hey, can you bring my pills? Or I don't have my pills. Can I have your pills? I forgot my pills. Can I have you? That's all illegal. And so it could be enough for the jury to convict, and they could say, we don't really care about it. That'd be like a jury nullification.
Right, right, exactly, Noah. I want to take a look at the jury makeup, who's on this jury. So we have a graphic, we'll put it up on the screen for all of our wonderful courties to look at home. So there are going to be 12 deliberating jurors. Of those 12, 8 are men, 4 of them are women. Okay, Dennis, do you think that sex is going to factor in here so much in this case? We've got more men who are going to be on this jury deliberating, less women. How much of that do you think will be a factor?
I think it's going to be a big factor. When Mr. Nuffield talked about the government coming to your bedroom and your hotel room, you know, as a man, I don't know if I want the government in my bedroom. Not that I have astral glide or baby oil, but the fact that the thought of that said, and the president, if he gets convicted of this, and this is, you know, this is like he said, you know, a threesome, a lifestyle. Even Jane Doe said it was a lifestyle. So I would be very concerned as a man that they consider that as one of the predicates.
Mm-hmm. Sure, the privacy, right? Mark Agnifilo did a great job helping the jury think about how this case would not have been brought into existence had it not been for the Cassie video that became public, that horrific beating video. And Noah, to that point, defense counsel characterized it as a money grab. They said that Cassie was looking for money, not justice, sued for $30 million. His words, not mine. He said, right now, members of the jury, as we're talking here today, Cassie's somewhere in the world with $30 million. And so that's one way of looking at it. The other way, Noah, you've been a prosecutor like I have, the federal government had an obligation, did they not, once this became public, to investigate to see if there were any crimes, and they say they found sex trafficking, transportation to commit prostitution, and 8 different racketeering crimes. Yeah, your thoughts?
The video is bad, right? And horrible. You know, maybe those 8 men on the jury have sisters or daughters or wives, and that's probably one of the reasons why he didn't testify. I mean, that's a really bad piece of evidence, and that there's always a piece of evidence that's real hard to overcome, and that could be enough where the jury's like, you know what, he's a bad guy. And that could sway them if there's enough evidence, you know, if they're on the fence of determining enough evidence or not enough evidence.
Right, right.
I mean, how do you excuse that?
Oh, right, you don't. And Mark Agnifilo made a point to say that it's inexcusable, it's illegal, and he just made that distinction, really brilliant distinction, saying he's not on trial for domestic violence. Right. Otherwise, he would have pleaded and you wouldn't be here, members of the jury. Dennis Byron, before we have to let you go for now, I sure hope you'll be willing to come back. I love your insight. Tell me, what's it been like seeing the support for Diddy, and if there's any support you've seen throughout the progression of the trial for the various listed victims on the indictment, Cassie, Jane. When I was there just those 2 days for closing arguments, I saw attorneys there for, I know one was Cassie's attorney, I'm presuming the other one was Jane's. I didn't see groups of people overtly carrying signs or anything in support of those women. I did see a lot of Diddy supporters carrying signs. Would you tell me what the factions of support have been like?
Well, who had the most support out of the witnesses was Mia. Mia had about 5 people that came in with her, 5 to 6 people came in with her. Like you said, Doug Whittor, who represents Cass, he's been there every day. And as far as Mia's concerned, she had an attorney, but that's it. I hadn't seen any protests outside the courthouse. Not like, you know, right, women's activist groups. I hadn't seen none of that out here. And you've been here, you see what kind of dramas outside the courthouse, nothing to do with the case. But right. As far as support, Mr. Combs has a lot of support. I mean, you see all the roles filled up. And there are a lot of his supporters in the overflow rooms, and there are 4 overflow rooms. So why you don't see him in the courtroom, think I can't get in, he has a lot of support in overflow rooms.
He does. You're right, Dennis. On Friday, when Mark Agnifilo finished, I'm sure you heard about this. The courtroom burst into, erupted into applause. People in that overflow room applauding what Mark Agnifilo did. So that was quite a moment. Again, not in the actual courtroom, but as Dennis noted, there have been so many overflow rooms that have been created because of the large number of people converging. And Dennis, stay safe out there, as it can be wild on the streets there. As I saw, stay safe. Be well. Great insight. Dennis Byron, the editor-in-chief.
Julie, I hit him with the bows. Hit him with the bows.
There you go. Hit him with the bows. Exactly. You protect yourself, my friend. Dennis Byron, the editor-in-chief of the Hip Hop Inquirer. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to having you back soon. Noah Pines is coming with us throughout the show. Please do the same at home. We've got much more on Diddy coming up. We're talking about how no cameras are allowed in court, but as we were just talking about, I got to be in there on Friday, got to watch the jury, got to watch Diddy closely. So I'm going to share my takeaways with you. Plus, after the break, we're talking about 6 possible witnesses appearing at today's hearing for Brian Kohberger. Will their potential testimony help hurt his case? That's next in What's Trending in True Crime.
And right now I have to testify. Murder case here, so yeah, because I'm a murder struggle, so yeah.
You have to testify in which murder?
Murder case for the college girl.
Oh.
A high school party ending in a fatal stabbing.
It was very hectic. People started yelling, screaming.
But what led to this tragedy in an affluent community?
The Preppy Party murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. It was the retrial of the century.
A jury found Karen Reed not guilty.
And America was watching every moment on Court TV.
We've got the best team in the business.
Stay with Court TV for your next true crime obsession.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zena, Madison, and Kaylee.
He was stalking them. He was hunting them.
You could tell there was something off about him.
A quadruple homicide in Moscow, Idaho. It's just unheard of.
This is our home. This is our university. This is our community.
These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students.
This was a violation of everything.
Welcome back. And now for What's Trending in True Crime. 6 potential witnesses in the Idaho student murders trial are scheduled to attend a hearing in Pennsylvania this morning. The hearing will determine if they'll be required to testify in Brian Kohberger's upcoming trial in Idaho. University of Idaho students Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, and Xana Carnota were all stabbed to death in their off-campus home back on November 13th of 2022. Brian Kohberger is the accused. One witness is asking to be totally excused from the hearing this morning because she's acknowledging that she is a material witness in the upcoming trial. Jury selection is set for August the 4th, with opening statements scheduled for 2 weeks later. So let's talk about this and what we can expect to happen this morning. Let me bring in our guest. I have with me in the studio criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines, and joining us remotely, criminology expert, author, and professor Dr. Debbie Goodman. Good morning to you both. Noah, let's start with the legal side of this. Would you explain to us, please, why this hearing today is going to be so key in Pennsylvania for what happens in Idaho later?
Well, it's getting the witnesses to go to Idaho to testify. So if you're you're a witness in one of my cases in Georgia, I serve you with a subpoena, you got to come. If you're out of state, it's not that easy. A lot of times you have to have what's called a material witness hearing, and apparently, I guess some of these witnesses could be material, and maybe they don't want to just come. So, there's a legal process to make them come.
Right. And so this is helpful. So we see one of them, we got word early this morning, is not contesting that she's a material witness. So she's saying, you know what, just excuse me from the hearing, going to make it easy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you hope that people will be cooperative if their testimony is material. Dr. Debbie Goodman, tell me your thoughts on this as you've been watching this case throughout the progression. I know you're going to be watching this hearing today. Tell us a little bit about what you may be looking for, please.
Good morning. Thank you. Truly, Julie, I'm not 100% convinced that any of the submissions from these individuals will move the needle one way or another. Will it be interesting? Yes. Might people say, favorable things, perhaps in snippets of time of which they may have interacted with the defendant? Possibly. And could there be negative statements? Yes. But for me, Julie, the enormity of what is being presented by the prosecution, that in and of itself will absolutely eclipse anything that any of these individuals have to say this morning, in my opinion.
Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. We can put up on your screen these prospective witnesses. So here we have Ann Parham, an advisor at Kohberger's High School. She has acknowledged that she is a material witness and acknowledging that her testimony would be necessary in this case. So she's the one who's asking to be excused from today. It sounds like she's going to cooperate and all will be well with her. Then we have Ralph Vecchio, Maggie Sanders, William Searfoss, who's a corrections officer at the facility where Kohberger was being held in Pennsylvania, Anthony Soma, Marie Bolger, who's Kohberger's former professor, Jesse Harris, Kohberger's former boxing coach, and everyone except for Maggie Sanders due in court today. Okay, so you know what? There may be two people who are cooperating now, Maggie and Ann Parham. I believe there's two ladies who are saying that they're going to be cooperating with this. But the others, so we've got, I see professor, coach. Noah, your thoughts on the utility of bringing these people in as a criminal defense attorney?
Well, I mean, Dr. Debbie kind of hit the nail on the head. You know, prosecutors overtry cases, Julie, right? I mean, I guess they want these people for all these tangential issues, and they want to make sure they have everything possible, but sometimes you can overtry your case. This case is almost 3 years old. It's a murder case. It's not that complicated. It is, it's a one incident murder case, one date. And there's no reason why this case hasn't gone to trial. And, prosecutors need to really, in my mind, they should oversimplify instead of overcomplicate cases.
Sure. That's a great point, Noah. And even with the death penalty, do you still think that this is taking way too long?
It's just taking a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's a serious case, but it's time to get this trial moving.
Sure. I think a lot of people in the public feel those sentiments. Dr. Debbie, I would love you to weigh in on that, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm in 100% agreement with Noah. Julie, such a lengthy period of time. By the time it goes to trial, at or near 3 years, we can only imagine the despair and the heartache that these families endure every single day. So I'm not in agreement at all with, the defense approach of deny and delay on this pathway, but rather I would imagine the prosecution will come in with the DNA and the decision making and have this atrocity move forward to closure. So I'm looking forward to this starting, and certainly for the families to get the closure that they deserve for their loved ones.
Right, Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. That's an important point. These families, more than anyone else, deserve closure, and this has to be agonizing, going through such a long process and having everything up in the air. Noah, with this hearing, would you expect it to be kind of like a preliminary hearing today, where there's questioning going on both sides, direct, across? What do you expect to see?
I think it's going to be a lot less interesting than that. I think it's going to be very procedural. You might hear some proffers. A proffer is where the lawyer says, Judge, this is what we expect this witness to say. This is why we need them. We need the service of the subpoena. We need to make sure they're going to come. And I think it's just going to be very procedural.
A little bit dry. Okay.
I'm surprised I don't know that I've ever actually seen a hearing like this.
And it tells me that maybe they're not inclined to cooperate, is what it seems to me like that they don't want to be part of this.
Well, nobody wants to be part of these trials these days because they get attacked by some parts, not this media, but some parts of the media, and by people who are watching. I mean, if you look at big trials that you've covered, Karen Reed trial, I mean, people get attacked just by people watching the trial.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
that was unprecedented.
That's got to stop.
Unprecedented.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what's got to stop is all this outside attack. Let the case be tried in the courtroom. Let the lawyers deal with it. We know how to deal with it. Stop kind of interfering in trials. I would love for that to happen.
Yes, I think everyone would, and I'm sure folks in academia, I've already heard some people talking about it, how there needs to be some kind of a plan to shut this down if this ever happens again, because that was just unprecedented. Dr. Debbie, final word to you, please, before I know we have to let you go and teach your wonderful students. So tell me, when you think about this case with Brian Kohberger and the victims on the case, obviously Brian Kohberger has a right to a fair trial, and we've seen high-profile trials take place before. Do you think that this judge is going to ensure that this trial is fair for him?
Absolutely, Julie, 100%. Fairness, just in totality, is at the spotlight and at the center, and I think we will see that happen.
Yes. Dr. Debbie Goodman, thank you so much for your time and expertise. We'll see you soon. Noah Pines is coming with us. Please do the same at home. Go refill your coffee. When we come back, telling you about what happened on Friday when I was in the courtroom watching Diddy and watching his jury. I'll give you my takeaways. And could testimony from the preppy high school friends tip the scales of justice against defendant Raul Valle? Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. This morning, jurors will be getting ready to return to the federal courthouse in Manhattan to continue the case with defendant Sean Diddy Combs. Today will be jury deliberation day. The judge is going to charge them sharply at 9 a.m. this morning, and then after they receive the jury instructions, they will go off to deliberate, and then we'll all go on a verdict watch. And my friends, at the end of last week, I had a chance to go into the courthouse and on Friday go into the actual courtroom and watch the defense closing arguments. And so my team back here at headquarters, who I missed so much when I was there, asked me to share my biggest takeaways with this. And I thought, well, who better to do it with than jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine. So let's welcome her in now. Susan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So my first big takeaway is Diddy's confidence. His confidence was very apparent. Susan, as soon as the bailiff announces all rise, whether it's for the judge, for the jury, whomever, he is like a jumping beat. He's the first one up on his feet, jumps up, stands up very tall, shoulders back, head held high, very apparent energy, confidence in the way that he looks, the way he carries himself. He was turning back toward his family, both when he walks in, gesturing things like, for instance, on the first day, on Thursday, when the government was about to close, he looked back at them and he put his hand to his chest and kind of made this motion and looked back at them and paused, and they looked at him. And to me, that signaled love. Susan, you tell me, what might that signal as a body language expert?
Sure. So you've got your palm to your chest, right? This is the area of where our heart and our emotions are, right here. It's heartfelt. So anytime you ever see him do the emoji, the heart, and hand to the chest is meaning passion. It means heart, something close, something intimate, right? So that's what we see here. But I really enjoyed listening to what you were talking about, the level of confidence that Diddy showed in the courtroom. And that can be very intoxicating. But what that's telling us is that inwardly, he is feeling very confident with his defense team. And it is that energy is being exuded out of him, and the jury is seeing that. And that in itself, when we think of energy, right? Negative energy, will provoke negative energy. But when you're provoked, when you are showing positive energy, that can be very persuasive and intoxicating.
That's really fascinating, Susan. I could see the positivity back and forth between him and his family. During one of the court breaks, for instance, I saw one of his twin daughters. They are beautiful, and they were dressed identically. They look identical, and they passed a note up to Tenny Garagos, Mark Garagos' daughter, who's one of the members of the Diddy legal team, and she took the note. It was on a piece of notebook paper, and she handed it to Diddy. I saw him take a look at it. We're going to show you Diddy's twin daughters, and this was the day when I saw them in those beautiful houndstooth suits that I saw one of them pass the note up. And so Tenny Garagos gave it to Diddy, and after he got the note, he looked at it, and then he turned back around to the gallery, had a huge smile on his face. And then he made a motion with his fist, almost to signal like yes, kind of like a little air fist pump back at his daughters. And I could see they were smiling too as they were looking back at him. And so kind of like, for anybody, like this motion, like what might that mean, Susan?
Well, that's, yes, you know, when you see that closed fist, right, that's power. That is intensity. The other thing is that a great point you brought up is when the hands go up, this is what we call the ecstatic zone, right? Right in here in the heart really is more emotion. So look at where the hands are placed will tell you what part of the truth zone that they're in. Ecstatic, power, excitement, victory, right? Heartfelt, emotion, passion.
Wow, that's really something. Yes, Susan, he's definitely conveying that love, that confidence, that excitement, as you said, to his family. I saw him looking toward a man, not a member of his family, but must be a supporter, and he put his hands in the prayer hands kind of pose, a little bit lower in his body, and bowed his head and said, thank you, thank you. I saw him mouthing that, and the man was nodding back at him. So some gratefulness, obviously, there for the support. I would love to get your thoughts on the jury, Susan, because I was watching them very closely. And so there were 2 points during Mark Agnifilo's close where I saw 3 jurors smiling big, kind of laughing at what he shared. He used some moments to bring some levity into the arguments. And one of them was when he kind of mocked the federal government and the CERT team who went in to seize all of the baby oil and the Astroglide. And we've got that moment. We'll play it now using AI.
He takes care of people. That's who he is. But the government executes these search warrants. Hundreds of agents, special response team, and I guess it's all worth it because they found the Astroglide. They found it in boxes of Astroglide taken off the streets. Whew, I feel better already.
And again, using AI, we don't hear the emotion, but trust me, I heard it. Mark Agnifilo, very animated. I mean, he's walking back and forth, just looking at them, not using notes, not using a podium, just said, members of the jury, I just want to talk to you. We're just going to talk. So conversational, so engaged. They all had their eyes locked right on him. When he said, oh, thank goodness, they got all the Astroglide. You saw 3 jurors with huge smiles crack up. All right, Susan, what do you say?
Humor goes a long way, right, Julie? So, and also what he was doing was using a technique called minimizing. So we're going to use humor to kind of minimize the intensity of the enormity of what happened, right? So this is kind of like almost a sense of mocking, like it's a joke. It's like, you know, to make it fun and light. And of course, the jurors have been hearing all this stuff for so long. And even in a very intense situation, it's kind of nice to have a little break of to break up some of the intensity with humor. So I think that it was actually quite a brilliant move to kind of minimize it, add some humor, connect with the jury, see if they would respond. Because as you know, as a trial attorney, we're trying to figure out if that worked. So you're testing that prior to see how those jurors or the potential jurors or mock jurors would have responded to that particular statement to see if they would have provoked the emotion. And I think that he got a big win on that one.
Right. I think you're exactly right. And, you know, when you say he tested it, Susan, I think you're so right, because a little later in the close, he made another joke when he was minimizing the amounts of drugs that were transported for the freak-offs. And he was talking about how it's all personal use. Diddy was not out on the streets trying to make money or distribute big quantities. He was using them. His girlfriend's using them, all of that. And not saying it's legal. It's not. It's illegal. Mark Agnifilo, though, took the opportunity, maybe testing the Astroglide joke first, and then said, you know, unless you can grow your own Xanax, you got to get the pills from somebody for these instances. And again, those same jurors started laughing. And so perhaps he was kind of feeling his way through it as he was going. But I think there is some value. I do this when I tried cases, when I teach trial advocacy, Susan, in getting away from the podium. Not using notes, just talking, just speaking to them like you're speaking to, like you and I are just speaking right now, talking to your friend at the breakfast table or whatever it is. Your thoughts on that? Final thoughts on how you can make that human connection by just standing before someone, locking eyes, and not having your attention anywhere else?
It's huge, Julie, as you know. You get the podium is a barrier. Just like books or any sort of objects in front of someone, it creates a separation between you and the other person. Stepping out, and I'm a public speaker, and I know you are. I couldn't speak from behind that podium if I tried. I got to get out and connect with people, right? I got to look at them in the eye. I see who my energy sources are, and I'm going to be locking in, right? Because you feed from that energy. That's what we do, right? If you get positive response, from someone, you're going to make that eye contact. Making eye contact is one of the most powerful aphrodisiacs, right? I mean, when you make eye contact, it's like you're seeing through the windows of their soul. And you're saying to them, I see you, you are present, you're valuable, I see you, and I'm connecting with you on a much deeper level. That's powerful. So eye contact and a 2 to 3 second hold of eye contact with each individual is good. If you look and you glance, it kind of like removes it. You've got to make that 2 to 3 second connection.
Right, Susan. Yes, I saw him doing that, and the government did not. What I saw from the government was looking down behind a podium, reading, and while the closed substance was excellent, their PowerPoint was outstanding. And I'll say it again, I've said it before, I believe they've proven this case by law. I mean, literally, they've gone through every element, but it wasn't nearly as convincing as the defense close, where we removed that energy barrier, as you said, and we just had the connection there. Susan Constantine, I could talk to you all day. We've got to let you go. You're a busy woman. Thank you for everything this morning.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. And coming up next on Opening Statements.
Me being me and knowing people, I thought maybe I could talk to Tyler Rich and it wouldn't be a big thing, but seeing him coming up to the right side and having both of us walking up just would not be something.
We got testimony resuming this morning in the Preppy Party murder trial for defendant Raul Valle. Could testimony from his prep school friends tip the scales against him?
This week,
a high school party turns deadly. Now a former student is facing a jury. We're breaking down each day's proceedings in the Preppy Party murder trial.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
The brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
Detectives arrested Brian Kohberger.
And I pray that we have justice.
The Idaho College Student Murders Trial. Live coverage begins this August, only on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales in a teen party gone wrong. The defendant in the Preppy Party murder trial, Raul Valle, was just 16 years old at the time, is now accused and being tried as an adult of stabbing and killing 17-year-old James McGrath, he goes by Jimmy, and injuring 3 other people during a brawl at a house party. Here are all the victims on your screen. Now, a key eyewitness, Tyler De Silva, testified under a non-prosecution agreement with the state. He took the stand Friday, delivered devastating testimony against Valle, including what was said to him after the alleged murder. Take a listen.
Did you have a conversation with the defendant?
Yeah, I basically confronted him and said, yo, did you stab those kids?
And what was his response?
I f***ed up, bro. I'm sorry.
And, is that all he said?
Yeah.
All right, so could this testimony tip the scales of justice against Raul Valle? Let's bring in high-profile criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines. Noah, what is that to you, that statement about, I'll use the word messed, I messed up, bro, instead of using the expletive. Is that a confession?
I mean, it sounds like a confession, but a good lawyer could, put that in another way. I effed up means I shouldn't have been there. I had to protect myself, because he's saying self-defense, right? I did it, but I didn't mean to. It can mean a lot of things. It's one of those things, unfortunately, is us defense attorneys have to deal with. So it's something that his lawyers are going to have to hit head on and come up with some sort of reasonable explanation. Like, I hit him, right? I mean, you know that from Carrie. I hit him.
Oh, said it many times.
Or I hit him.
Jury didn't believe it, though, but she said it.
Or I hit him.
Yeah.
I mean, she says I said I hit him, but...
She admits it.
Right, but how did she say it? So, you know...
Right.
When you get arrested and you end up, you know, getting prosecuted, you effed up one way or the other. Now, you know, if there's a legal defense, that's something different. And of course, a 16-year-old's not going to understand what his legal defense is. That's what the lawyers do.
Right, right. I have another clip for you now, Noah. This is that same witness, Tyler De Silva, talking about how the defendant didn't want to have a peaceful situation at the party.
Me being me and knowing people, I thought maybe I could talk to Tyler Rich and it wouldn't be a big thing. But seeing him coming up to the right side and having both of us walking up just would not be something that would be smart.
And why wouldn't it be smart?
He was really angry before. I don't think he was looking to talk peacefully like I was, to talk to Tyler Rich about the damages.
Okay, Noah, what does that say to you?
That's bad, right? You know, it's bad. He says he comes in, he's angry. We know he had a knife. You know, that really kind of takes away that self-defense element, because it's not like I went in there and I got attacked. It's I was planning for it, and, you know, or I was arming myself, and that could be, you know, very difficult, which is, you know, why teenagers should, you know, not try to fix a situation like this themselves, because they don't know how to. They don't have the, they should talk to parents or talk to somebody else, or do something, take a step back. You need that friend always to be like, let's take a step back instead of charge forward.
Yes, yes. And we know hindsight is 20/20. This is just awful. Anybody watching this knows this case is just awful. All of these children, their lives have been forever changed. Hearing one of the witnesses talk about how, like, it's wild to him to think about that was the night his friend, Jimmy McGrath, died. His friend was killed. Nobody thinks you're going to go to a party with your friends and somebody's going to die and people are going to be injured. Noah, we have a lot of wonderful parents who watch the show, and you just kind of touched on this a little bit. What do you think maybe any takeaways for parents in allowing kids to have parties at their home? Anything that is a lesson that we can take from this tragedy?
Don't have parties at your home. Step one.
Don't do it, yeah.
You know, and the problem is nowadays, and I'm sure it happened when I was a kid, you know, telephone tag, party would get out of hand. And, you know, now with social media and cell phones, I'm sure it's even worse.
Right.
And, you know, school factions and fighting and groups. I mean, this has been going on for a long time, Julie. It's just stupid. And so, you know, kids have to learn how to look ahead of, like, okay, what could happen, and, you know, make that decision to not even take that first step before they're in it, because once you're in it, it's chaos. And when I talk to kids, you know, if you tell them, I talk to high school kids all the time, if you tell them what not to do, they're going to do it. If you try to say, look, let me show you an example, and have them pause for just a second before they take that action, then sometimes you can help save a life.
That's great advice, Noah. I've got one more clip. This witness, Faison Teal, so impactful. He was injured and stabbed. Fortunately, he recovered and testified. Let's take a listen to some of what he shared.
It was the worst day of my life. Plain and simple. Like,
why was it the worst day of your life?
Never in a million years did I think, being at one of my best friend's house, I would get stabbed, or 3 other of my friends would get stabbed, or Jimmy McGrath would die. And even some days I'm just like thinking to myself, like, why him? Like, it sounds dark, but I'd be like, it should have been me instead of Jimmy, because you don't see kids on this earth like that. Like, just a kid that smile every single time you see him. You don't see that.
Oh my gosh, what an impactful witness.
That's powerful testimony.
Yeah, it really was. These kids, I hope they get therapy and the support and the help that they need. Noah, you know how important that is in these cases. This is a major trauma, isn't it?
Yeah.
That these kids are going through. Every good wish to all of them. Noah Pines, you've got cases to win. We got to let you get into the courtroom. Thank you for stopping here at Court TV before heading to the courthouse today. We appreciate you so much. We're going to hit a break, my friends. That is all for this episode of Opening Statements, but if you liked it, watch it again, share it. We put the episodes up on courttv.com every day for you. We'll be right back.